And we are live. Hi, everyone. This is Sharon Weinstein, and I want to extend a warm welcome to the Healing Healthcare Authors Tour. Your hosts are Dina Redinger and myself. Dina is not with us today, but that's quite all right because I'll be able to handle and discuss his chapter with today's special guest. We have a lot in store for you today, and we're really excited that you're here. Nurses remain the backbone of the healthcare system, and little has been done or even really studied to remedy a system that is clearly in crisis. If this is not addressed now, humankind will suffer. One of the things that Dina and I often discuss is, will there be anyone to take care of us? No one really knows, especially when you consider that aspiring nurses are currently in middle school. That's a long time to wait. The book, Healing Healthcare, Evidence-Based Strategies to Mend Our Broken System, is packed with solutions, real solutions to the problems that plague our system, the problems that lead to troubling sentiments among prospective nurses or cause people to want to quit quietly. Nurse leaders share their experiences, their thoughts, their evidence, and strategies to ensure the health of healthcare. What you will find within these pages are actionable, vetted steps for fixing a system that is currently suffering in silence. And we need your help in getting this book into the hands of as many people as possible who are making those decisions. Before we start today, I want to acknowledge you and thank you for joining us for this entire series. This is number 26 in our author interviews. And of course, last but not least, we sometimes save that best for last, don't we? So you're in for a treat today. Today, we're pleased to welcome Tim Raderstorf, a contributor to the workforce section. Tim is a trailblazing healthcare innovator and author. The first nurse to hold the Chief Innovation Officer title in academia, Tim empowers frontline healthcare professionals for transformative change. His groundbreaking innovative studio democratizes innovation, providing interprofessional teams with funding, tools, and mentorship to turn ideas into action. Tim co-authored with Bernadette Melnick the #1 new release and book of the year, Evidence-Based Leadership, Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Nursing and Healthcare, a practical guide for success. Tim's accolades also include the Innovation Studio being named a Nonprofit of the Year by Columbia Business First. Welcome, Tim, to the program. I am so pleased to welcome you today and to chat with you.
Sharon, thanks so much for having me here today. And, I appreciate you making it through the incredibly long title of our book. But the last part's the most important, the practical guide for success. So hopefully today in our conversation, we can maintain a lot of practicality and give our listeners and viewers a lot of hands-on tools that they can use to lead innovation within their systems.
I look forward to that. So then let me start out with the basic question. Why are you involved? Why did you say yes to me? The stock answer is no one says no to me, but why did you say yes to me?
Well, that's a great question. I am, let's peel back the onion a little bit here and see if we can get some practicality. So other than being a big believer in the things that you said in the intro about healthcare desperately needing change, and us to have a better understanding of how we can change healthcare for the better, I'm a big believer that nurses, which is the profession we're both in, have not done an exceptional job at networking and at finding like-minded individuals. Finding like-minded individuals is one of the keys to driving change within healthcare. So I'm here because I actually met you at the National Nurses and Business Association's annual conference, I think in 2016.
Right.
So, here I am. This is actually one of the first conferences I'd ever been to as a speaker, and met you. We had some wonderful conversations, and you never know what's going to happen when you do what one of my mentors says, is dangling your feet in the river of opportunity, meeting new people, saying yes to new connections, and really learning about people, asking questions, and finding where that overlap exists so that you can drive innovation or drive your goals forward. So I'm here today because we met almost 10 years ago. And was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to have the opportunity for that connection, but also moving beyond right place and right time, seeking out those opportunities for collisions and connections with new people. So I think that's one key thing that people can take away from my journey today as we're discussing is go out there and try and find people who want to do the things that you want to do, and work together to achieve them.
I love that. That is great, great advice. So, Tim, as an innovator, you have been on the forefront. You have led the field in nurse-led innovation. It's really important for our viewers to know, how do we harness the workforce to influence innovation, and what do nurses need to know? And then if you'd add on to that, what role does AI play in that process?
Sure. I'll try and separate those out, but I think
Please do. Yep.
the real key to harnessing innovation, is that we need to empower those at the front lines. We need to empower the people who understand the problems the most. As the largest workforce in healthcare, nurses have traditionally not been brought to the front line, or have not been brought along when it comes to creating the next phase of healthcare. And this will be part of our discussion here in the second part when we talk about AI. But what we need to do as healthcare leaders, whether we're nurses or non-nurses, is really seek out the expertise of the people who understand the problems the most, and create spaces where nurses, clinicians feel empowered to identify problems and to speak up and experiment with their solutions. So you have to provide two things that I'd like to talk about. The first is the permission to innovate. So it's not enough to just have innovation in your organization's mission, vision, and values. It's not enough to say that we're an innovative organization. We need to make this part of people's job descriptions. So creating a structure that allows them to innovate and gives them the permission to do that is essential. And the other key thing, which is also free along with permission, is the validation that our individuals' ideas are worth pursuing. So the people who understand the problems the most, evidence showcases that they are the ones who are best positioned to solve those problems, and they usually do it in an elegant and cost-effective manner. So we need to be having conversations with people when they come to us with an idea, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that opportunity in the budget."
Mm-hmm.
We need to instead reframe that and say, "Thank you so much for being innovative. I value you and your opinions, and I think that this could be a game changer. I don't know the next step forward, but I'm going to come on this journey alongside with you to figure out how we can continue to validate your ideas and make sure that we can turn your idea into an action." Now, as we shift into what is potentially going to be an AI revolution, potentially maybe an AI evolution, we're not sure how this is going to be yet. There's been a lot of talk about AI being the most disruptive technology moving forward.
Right.
I think in some verticals, that's going to be true. But in other verticals, AI is going to be a tool. And I think that that's where nursing follows. I think nursing is going to maintain the human element. The thing that we crave so much when seeking out care is that human element, that human connection. So what nursing needs to do is be heavily involved in the creation of these AI tools. And as we look at statistically, these larger tools that have been brought into healthcare, whether you think of the EHR or other components, nurses have not been at the building block of this. And I think the train's probably already left the station, if I'm being honest. But what I would encourage all of our listeners to do is look up AI organizations that are attempting to help nursing care, and reach out to them and ask them how many nurses they have on their team, what they're doing to validate the assumptions that they're making, how are they eliminating bias from their AI tools to ensure that we are delivering care that is for all, and that nurses' inputs and values are brought in early on, so that the tools actually provide the value that nurses desperately need and don't provide value that may hinder our ability to provide that human element to patients.
Right, because we need to maintain that human connection. You and I both know that nurses have typically been involved in innovation for a long period of time. We called it jerry-rigging, but it was innovation.
Oh, of course.
It was innovation, perhaps not at its finest, but it goes back years and years and years, when a nurse would put something together because they needed it to work. And then perhaps they would show it to a sales rep, who at that time was allowed to permeate the halls of the institution. That person would then take it back to their company, manufacture it, sell it, and make a fortune.
Absolutely.
How do we get nurses on the ground floor? How do we get them to understand that their ideas have value?
Well, that's a big issue. And I think a lot of it stems from the identification of nurses. We tout that we have been the most trusted profession for the last, however long Gallup has been doing their polls of most trusted professions.
Right.
Everyone likes to say it's been 23 years. It's actually been much longer than that. Just the year that 9/11 happened, policemen and firefighters were the most trusted profession that year. But this years previous to that, nurses also were the most trusted profession. Trust is a wonderful thing to build in healthcare. It's a wonderful thing to build in relationships, but trust does not equate to value. And as a nursing profession, we need to understand that we are doing ourselves a disservice if we rest on the laurels of trust and we don't do a better job at explaining value. So I don't know if that necessarily solves the problem that you asked with the question of how do we get to get to the front lines of this. I believe that building systems of innovation, like we talked about in my first answer, creating environments where they have the permission and validation to step forward, that's one step. But that's not enough on its own. And we need to be better advocates of the value that we provide. We need our patients to understand how we are healing them. And we need our health systems to provide or to understand how we are leaning to their to their bottom lines, instead of just being something that is included in as a cost center and in the room costs for our patients.
Exactly. Exactly. Tell me more about this practical guide. You mentioned it before. I want to give you an opportunity to share that.
Yeah, so we're in our second edition of the book. It actually just came out in the spring, and it's really geared towards the leadership courses at the bachelor's, master's, and doctorate level. The goal here was to be able to provide a textbook that reads like a novel. So how are we how are we threading story throughout each chapter? How are we giving real world practical examples and not being what I find a lot of the books that I've been that I utilized in my master's in DNP work, which are highly theoretical and not applicable to the real world.
Right.
So we went out to thought leaders and experts in each individual area that we thought was highly impactful for our students, much like you did for this book, and had them write chapters that provided practical advice. And actually, it is accompanied with a 24 chapter skills building book that goes along with students. So each student, as they are reading the book, has the opportunity to reflect and engage in the content in a real meaningful way. So that you don't even have to be enrolled in a course right now. I'm getting notifications on LinkedIn, requests on LinkedIn to meet with people who've taken the book and read it themselves and have found immense value and want to continue along that journey. Physicians, nurses, people throughout healthcare and variety of professions. So it's been a really impactful journey for us as authors, but I think just as impactful for our readers as well.
I think so too. And when you say practical, it leads one to think doable. I too can make this happen. Yeah.
It's a read and do book. It's not a read book. It's a read and do.
Yeah. Read, act, do. I love it. Okay. So Tim, for your chapter, what is the takeaway from your chapter? One thought that will lead to transformative change.
I think the key thing that I want the readers to get out of my chapter is the value of collective ambition. So in the other sections of your book, when we talk about wellness, there's some great articles or great chapters on building resilience. And professional or personal resilience, I think, is a skill that every individual has to have.
Right.
Professional resilience is something that I think has been pushed on, particularly nurses and healthcare professionals, being told that the system's broken and they just need to work through it, that the challenges are not changeable. I disagree with that. And I believe that instead of building professional resilience where we change for the system, we need to build collective ambition where we see a problem and collectively we change the system. So instead of changing for the system, you change the system. You take ownership and say, hey, hospital, I'm not going to change myself. I know how we should be moving forward to achieve the goals that we need. I'm going to change you and make the system easier to work in, not just for myself, but for my colleagues around me. So taking this role of collective ambition can increase job satisfaction and really give those people at the front lines the confidence that, one, systems can change and that it's not broken forever, and two, that they have the capacity to do it themselves.
Right. And maybe instead of a Band-Aid, it's time for some surgical intervention on the part of the nurse leading that procedure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. I totally would agree with you. Well, as all good things must come to a close, so is our time today. It's time for the interview to end, but I want to encourage all of you to visit www.healbrokenhealthcare.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Make sure that you put your name on the mailing list for Heal Broken Healthcare so that you receive our newsletter. And when you subscribe to that YouTube channel, you'll also be able to see all of the interviews that you may have missed up until this time. You can visit us and have your book signed at one of these live events. The Ohio State University Wellbeing Conference in Columbus, Ohio, October 23rd to the 25th, where you'll also meet Bernadette Melnick and Megan Amaya. Unfortunately, Tim will not be there. The Magnet Pathway to Excellence Conference in New Orleans, October 29th to November 1st, will be at the Purdue University Global booth and in the main bookstore. Many of our contributors will be present. Rush University Professional Building in Chicago on November the 6th, hosted by the Rush University Medical Center professional nursing staff, Rush College of Nursing, and Purdue University Global. And for those of you in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia areas, we are hosting a live launch at 6 p.m. Actually, it's 5 p.m. I stand corrected, on November 14th in Tysons, which is near Vienna, Virginia. Mark your calendars now and watch for more information. If you'd like more details and to schedule your own event, please reach out to me at sharon@smwgroupllc.com and I will be sure to respond. We also have events planned in the Boston area and beyond, perhaps in Florida. So please reach out to us. For today, again, I want to thank you, Tim, for joining us. You did a great job of explaining not only your chapter, but your thought process. And I love where you're going. I love the whole concept of really arming people, preparing them for the change that is needed, allowing them to do what needs to be done and to receive credit for being part of that process, for being the innovator. People need to know that nursing is leading that charge. So thank you again so very much for being with us today.